it's Thomas Arc 11, and this is going to be about story and lore spoilers for Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed, and by extension the whole main series trilogy, so if you haven't finished everything yet, save this for later. So, spoiler warning out of the way, there's been a pretty commonly believed theory about Pneuma being Noah's lucky 7 sheath that's just been assumed as true despite lack of actual evidence for it. I'm going to be going over all the details and some misinformation in this theory, and see if it's actually possible to be true. Let's start off with where the theory came from. Shown in Future Redeemed and then reaffirmed in the art book, Pneuma's core crystal is shown to be in Matthew's Ouroboros knuckles.
Drive it in! Release the power of Ouroboros! Shut the hell up already! I ain't taking orders from you!
This isn't actually the physical core. We can see looking at the frames of the scene, its energy manifesting into the shape of it just phases in. As we're told about how Origin Metal contains the wills or souls of people inside Origin, this means Pneuma's will is in the Origin Metal glove base of the fists. So because of the fists and Noah's Lucky 7 sheath being so similar in design, this leads many to the fair and intuitive assumption that Riku reforged Matthew's fists into Noah's sheath. I won't be going into if this part is true or not, since it takes headcanon in either direction to say they are the same weapon or not. We have no idea what canonically happens to the fists. They may have gotten reforged into the sheath or a variety of other possibilities, but it ultimately doesn't matter too much because there are other reasons Pneuma would no longer be in it even if they are the same weapon. Those being that Pneuma is a part of the Ouroboros Power. It's presented with the same green glow as her presence in the fist makes it work as an Ouroboros stone, and we see the Pneuma core right after N says to unleash the power of Ouroboros. And then, after Future Redeemed, Nicole and Riku modify the Ouroboros stones to grant more power at the cost of that power only being able to go to 6 at a time now, as stated by Monica.
Although, there can only be 6 Ouroboros alive at one time. By activating the stone's cage here, those with aptitude can become Ouroboros.
Only 6? Why so few of them?
After the stone is used to grant the power, it shuts off, which would suggest Pneuma can't be elsewhere while being in the 6 Ouroboros. Now you could argue she might have been in a 7th place the whole time too, because Xenoblade 3 loves the number 7. That's reasonable enough, but then that brings us to the evidence of her being in the sheath. I'm going to go over all the points used as reasoning behind the theory and look at other explanations for them. 1. The stone speaks to Guernica, who's focusing on the sword.
Huh? What's that? Oh, I see. I suppose this is the reason I'm here then, eh? Guess this is what they call fate. Fine.
Well, we know Fiora's soul is in Lucky 7 itself, so this would just be pointing to Fiora, not Pneuma speaking about herself being in the sheath. Number 2. Noah blocks a Ferronis cannon that no one else could using the gauntlet.
Bethany, you can't!
I was planning to!
This was a big piece of evidence for the idea until the art book came out and told us it's because the sheath/gauntlet does contain a disc of Origin Metal used to create a barrier since the metal is indestructible. Now it is a fair guess to say this disc is the metal from the fists containing Pneuma, but the art book says nothing about a soul in the disc or being from the fists, so there's no actual evidence there, just further theorizing. Number 3, the art Power Razor emits a Pneuma glow from the gauntlet. By itself, this would be a strong case, but then we see other attacks by Lucky 7 itself and not the gauntlet with the same glow effects. So I think it's more reasonable to assume this is Noah's own Ouroboros power, or something I'll talk about for the next piece. Number 4. The sheath and gauntlet glow green. First off, the gauntlet, no it doesn't, this is just the lighting of this one scene. We can see it doesn't match up with Matthew's fist glow, or in other scenes, it's just blue. Now this last one does hold some weight to it. The veiled sword sheath in exactly one scene when Noah and Mio are fighting in Chapter 1, same scene as earlier where Vandam took notice, does actually glow green here. This is before Noah has Ouroboros Power, and there is no confirmed explanation or even acknowledgement of this in-game, so this is where I'll be giving one bit of my own theory as an alternate explanation. Earlier in the FR scene of Matthew's fists, there's a green burst when N uses his logo sword in the ground, and then we see this green glow with the Fiora sword. Both only happen in the vicinity of an Ouroboros stone, so my guess is that the other admin weapons are resonating with Pneuma and tapping into a little Ouroboros power themselves. This could also be why Lucky 7 has those green slashes shown before. It's combining with Noah's Ouroboros powers, which is kind of just pedantic and basically means the same as him using his own power, as I said before, but whatever. So with all that, is the theory that Pneuma is inside Noah's sheath passed down from Matthew possible? Yes. With enough assumptions of extra information not present in the game, but not contradictory to it, it does become possible. But is it probable? Not really. With requiring multiple sub-theories to explain it, and more importantly not being mentioned anywhere in the art book despite other similar information being stated, it's unlikely to be intended by the creators, and since Ionios is over, it probably won't ever get brought up again in any future games, even as a retcon. As a side note, it also just doesn't make much sense narratively for her to be in the sheath when she's already with the whole party anyway. Now, you may be upset that this means your headcanon of Pyra, Mithra, and Fiora kissing inside the Veiled Sword can't be true, but don't worry, because with Pneuma being in Ouroboros, that means when Noah draws Lucky 7 in Interlink form, the sword is being imbued with Pneuma energy. The artbook concept art and notes even show they planned on the Aura Sword looking more like the Pneuma Monado before settling on the Monado 2 look. So while this doesn't fulfill your shipping needs, this absolutely does. I realized after everything else was finished that I forgot to note where in the art book things were, so I'm sticking this in at the end for anyone wanting to check for themselves. Enjoy this dumb clip of Levnis's T-posing on repeat while I do. The interview section at the back of the art book, starting at page 430, includes the confirmations of Pneuma being in the fists, Logos being in N's sword, and Fiora being in Lucky 7. Key points of the interview were translated by Lugalbanda over at Xenomira, and that'll be linked in the description for those wanting to read it who haven't already. The origin metal disc in Noah's Sheath/Gauntlet is confirmed in the design notes of Noah's weapon on page 300. Concept art with design notes of a more Pneuma-like interlink origin blade is found on page 135. So that's everything. Usually I do theories on world-building lore instead of plot lore, so if you want to see backstories for unique monsters, you can check out the playlist to your left, or if you're interested in gameplay guides, I've also done that with the playlist on your right. If you have any further evidence for or against the Sheath theory, let me know in the comments, and see you next time.